Tom, and I have got a Round 2 model review for you.
And chugging right along, we've got the Excelsior 1701B comparison. Doing a little research on this, I began to realize there are actually three versions of this kit out there. The Excelsior originally, the 1701B that the Excelsior got turned into, and now the Round 2 re-engineering of that kit, which accuratized the saucer, the neck, and possibly one other part. We'll take a look at all the differences overall. So technically this should be a side-by-side, however we'll just stick with the side-by-side. And there are a lot of differences. I just did some research on the net looking at reference photos for the Excelsior and this one, and it turns out neither of these is accurate to what they're supposed to be anyway. So even this re-engineered saucer here is not really accurate to the 1701B, or it could also be the Lakota that I'm looking at, which could have also had differences. And once you start getting down this route where there's just so many changes to the same model, what is accurate anymore anyway? There are some nice changes that Round 2 made for the new saucer that would be cool on the Excelsior, but looking through the Round 2 blogs, the last time this was talked about was about the summer of 2010 or so, when Jamie Hood was starting to look into releasing the 1701B and the Reliant and a couple others. It was interesting to look at that little bit of history from back then. But there was also talk at that time that if the 1701B sold fairly well, then re-engineering the Excelsior could be done. And frankly, I think if they do that, they'll have a really good kit on their hands, because the Excelsior here, there's a few problems with it. These indentations here, the phaser banks are really huge, some of the details around here are wrong, back here. They got these fins right. It's tough to tell. I can only look at, for the Excelsior at least, pictures from the movie itself, Trek 3. There's no other really good reference of it that I've found that's not CG or diagrams or some other interpretation of what the model really was. So looking at all the screenshots, the fins are definitely on there, and a lot of the diagrams agree, but then diagrams change with what details are going on in this area. The bridge, I think, is supposed to be inaccurate, but I'm not sure about that. And the lower saucer, again, it's tough to tell. This definitely looks more accurate to the lower saucer from what Excelsior was. However, did ILM change the lower saucer at all between Excelsior B and Lakota? If not, then this piece will work better on this top, and this piece is just junk at that point. It's got its own style certainly, but this is definitely the more accurate one to use. Another thing I've noticed on each of them is that here on the lower saucer, these radial lines are raised while the circular ones are inscribed. Here on the new one, all the lines are inscribed. Up here, circular are inscribed. Up here, radial, they're raised. They stay radial, raised up here. So this is an entirely new piece, I think. They certainly increased a lot of the details around here. This is all flat, of course, and there's a few indentations and raised bits all over the place. The phaser banks themselves are raised on a little piece of rectangle, whereas here they're flat against the hull, and here they've got their rectangle, and up here they've got it. These phaser dimples are definitely much smaller than these mountains over here. So the bridge has changed between the two. The background details here are definitely different. Those are the main differences. You can still see a little bit of the raised lines for the RCS here, whereas that's what it used to look like. And of course, the sidewalls have been smoothed down just like they did on Reliant. So let's take a look at the secondary hull. We've got one more group of sprue to look at after this. In order to add the prow to the 1701B, Ertl had to slice the hull down the middle, and instead of having two nice smooth parts like that, you get those two plus this guy here to recreate it. There are a few changes on it apart from that, such as this little dimple in here compared to that one there. The front opening is much larger, as is evidenced by these two deflector cones, I guess, dishes. And the top, of course, all these lines were filled in and styrene added in place. The back of it looks pretty much the same though, I think. The details might be a little sharper on this older piece, but that could also be the color of the plastic, making it more evident on this one. These guys here are all the same, so no changes were made to those at all. And at least the hangar bay insert right there is inaccurate as far as I know. You'd have to go to aftermarket kits to really get an accurate version of either of these ships. Then the real piece of wonder is, here's the old stand and here's the new one. So how they managed to re-engineer those three pieces into this, I have no idea. That's a pretty sweet job. I can't even tell that used to be a triangle anymore. Again, it could be the color of the paint being black, it's tougher to tell, but wow, nice job. Seeing the decal sheet made me realize that this is not NX 2000. Checking on the box, the copyright is 1994, so it's possible that there is a different decal sheet out there for NX 2000. I'm not sure on that. I doubt they would have changed the tooling for that one edition release though. So chances are this is original plastic, but this may not be original decal. And of course the two decal sheets just aren't going to compare at all. There are no Aztecs for this one. There could be in the aftermarket though. Getting back here, they did make some changes to this guy here. So note the front indentation, which I think should have inserts. They should be clear inserts. And over here, they've already got those in there. Tail fan is looking the same. So they have moved a few things around. Adding these pieces here. Those pieces got replaced by these pieces. This now has more of a curvature than that one does. The neck is different as mentioned. These pieces are looking the same, and I guess that's just about it. The addition of those two pieces as well. So a few little changes, a couple really big changes on the 1701B, and then again, I don't have the original issue of the 1701B to know the difference between this and that kit. It should be fairly minor, in which case it's probably maybe some of the details there. And if there is an insert for this, I'm thinking it might be an aftermarket thing. A cursory glance at the clear plastic isn't really showing me any difference in any of the stylings or the shapes. So that's pretty much it. Excelsior 1994, 1701B 2000 and what was it, 11? 10 that this came out.